Good evening. It is June 10th at 5:01 p.m. Welcome to the San Marino Unified School District Board of Education special meeting. Here is your board president, Shelley Ryan.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. You may join us in person if you have pre-registered. You can also join virtually via Zoom at www.smusd.us/media. All meetings of the Board of Education are open to members of the public unless publicly noticed as a confidential closed session as allowed by the law Education Code 35147. Members of the public may address the board as outlined in the public comment section of the agenda. The audio of all meetings is recorded. A member of the public may be held liable for any slanderous or otherwise defamatory statements. In consideration of the board and members of the audience, please turn off or silence your cell phones while in the board area. The San Marino Unified School District encourages those with disabilities to participate fully in the public meeting process. If you need a disability-related modification or accommodation, including auxiliary aids or services to participate in the public meeting, please contact the assistant to the superintendent at jdellatorre@smusd.us or at 626-299-7000, extension 1310, at least 48 hours before the scheduled board meeting so that we may make every reasonable effort to accommodate you. Documents provided to a majority of the Board of Education regarding an open session item on this agenda will be made available for public inspection in the district office located at 1665 West Drive, San Marino, during normal business hours. In addition, such writings and documents may be viewed on the district's website at www.smusd.us. I will now open the session. Call to order. This is an informational item. Could you please stand and join with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? Dr. Choi, will you lead us?
Hand over your heart. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. May I have an approval of the agenda? This is an action item.
I'd like to move this agenda for today's meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chang and Mrs. Chung. Oh, thank you. I heard you. All right, let's take a roll call. Mrs. Chung?
Aye.
Mr. Chang?
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan? Aye. The motion passes to approve the agenda. Public comment. This is an informational item. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matters pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. Persons who wish to provide public comment will have 3 options to submit public comments. You may submit through an online form, request to speak during the meeting via question and answer and phone dial-in, or request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Submit through an online form. The public may submit public comments for the open session on June 10th from 11 through 3:30. Comments received during this time will not be read during the meeting, but will be provided to the Board of Education. There were no comments as of 3:30 this afternoon. You may request to speak during the meeting via question and answer and phone dial-in. During public comment, the meeting will pause for 1 minute. Take requests to speak. The raise hand function is used to take requests during the public comment period. For online attendees, press the raise hand icon to add yourself to the queue, and for phone attendees, dial *9. The speaking order will be determined based on the order of requests received. Individual speakers will be unmuted and called to speak. You may also request to speak during the meeting in person via the public comment card. Please complete the public comment card and submit the completed card to the designated drop box with the assistant to the superintendent no later than when the agenda section items on the agenda is called for by the board president. There will be opportunities for public comment, and they are offered at the start of the open session for matters on the agenda, following the candidate's interview for matters on the agenda, and the Board of Education reserves the right to add a public comment period prior to any individual item on the agenda. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 2 minutes to each subject matter. 20 minutes, I apologize, 20 minutes to each subject matter. 2 is a little bit short. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishing to speak will be heard within the 20-minute allotment. 5A is communications from the audience regarding matters on the agenda, and they are to be made at this time. Dr. Choi, will you please time us?
We are pausing for 1 minute to take requests to speak on matters on the agenda. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9 if you are joining by phone, or submit a public comment card if you are joining in person. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak regarding matters on the agenda, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. President Ryan, we have no requests via Zoom or via phone, and we have public comment cards.
Dr. Choi, we have one request to submit for a public comment. I'd like to call on Stephanie Duncan from 669 Chalster Road.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting me to speak. I'm here on behalf of Nam Jack, the school board member. I've known Nam for about 20 years. She's an active member of our community and district. Nam is intelligent, articulate, and well-respected. She has previously served on the board and will bring experience, stability that this board and district need at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Duncan. Next, interview eligible candidates to fill vacant board seat. I'd like to call on Dr. Delatorre, Linda Delatorre, so that she may give us the structure of tonight's.
Yes, thank you, President Ryan, members of the Board of Education, executive team, and interviewees. Due to the resignations of former board members Barbary and Chanlin, the Board of Education is working to fill 2 vacant seats. Tonight, the Board of Education will interview candidates and appoint 1 to the Board of Education to fill Mr. Barbary's seat. The provisional appointee to the position previously held by Mr. Barbary will be for the remainder of his term ending in December 2022. This position will then be subject to a normal election cycle, November 1st, 2022, with a 4-year term through December 2026. A subcommittee of the board was convened on June 7th to screen applicants for the open position. 7 candidates were found to be eligible, and 6 candidates agreed to be interviewed. It is the intention of the board to announce and swear in the selected candidate into office to serve the remaining term vacated by Mr. Barbary this evening. The provisional board member application period for the 2nd position, Ms. Chanlin's position, will begin at 12 p.m. on Friday, May 28th, and will close precisely at 12 p.m. on Friday, June 18th. So this position has already been posted, and the district is currently accepting applications for that vacancy as well. The application for serving out Ms. Chanlin's term will be made available both electronically and paper. Information regarding the application process will be posted and is posted on the district's website. Mr. Chang and Mrs. Chan will screen applicants for Julie Chanlin's position on Monday, June 21st at 5 p.m. They will interview eligible candidates in the regular board meeting on June 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. It is the intention of the board to announce the second provisional appointee on June 22nd, 2021, and to swear that candidate into office to serve for the remaining term vacated by Ms. Chanlin at that time. According to Ed Code 5091, subsection 2E, an appointed candidate serving a vacated term may only serve until the next regularly scheduled election, which in this case is November 1st, 2022. The process for this evening will be as follows. Each candidate will be asked the same 6 questions. Candidates will have a maximum of 1.5 minutes to respond to each of these questions, and will have copies of the questions in front of you. Dr. Choi will be the board's timekeeper and will provide the candidates with a 30-second warning, a 10-second warning, and a stop sign when the time for a response has expired. When the stop sign goes up, the microphone will be muted. And while this sounds harsh, it is only being done to ensure that no candidate receives an unfair advantage. The order in which the questions will be asked was randomly selected using numbers after having listed the candidates in alphabetical order. Each number was pulled from a hat by one person and recorded by a separate person. Once all the candidates have been interviewed and public comment is rendered, the board president shall ask for a motion to appoint from the board and a second and a vote. At this time, a new board member will be sworn in and he or she shall begin to serve the remaining term. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Delatorre. I don't think she mentioned that after we mute your microphone, then a net comes down and then, sorry, Linda. All right, I had to say that one. Anyways, good. All right. Thank you so much for all of you. On behalf of the board, I can't thank you guys enough for hearing our call, answering our call, and then applying. So thank you so much for being brave to be here. Tonight, I'm going to begin. Okay, hang on a minute. Okay. So I have the first question, so I'm going to begin. And the question goes to Louis. Is that correct? Yes. All right. Louis, what skills and experience do you possess that allow you to effectively govern a public school district? Specifically, describe your experience with public school financing and budgets, public school curriculum, collective bargaining agreements, and educational policy and procedures. I recognize this is a long question. That's what was given to you in writing. All right.
What I'm really good at is assessing the situation, identifying the problems, exploring all available options, and forming the best solution under the given circumstances. Whatever that given circumstances may be, it's important that they're communicated to the stakeholder so we can build trust and avoid surprises. So I had a year experience of teaching ESL at Mount SAC, which is a public school, and I won a competition for designing an innovative curriculum. I have creative ways to make learning more engaging and more meaningful while operating under a restricted budget and environment. I'm capable of working with students, teachers, admins, parents, and stakeholders. I also had a news reporting career, during which time I am exposed to all kinds of national, state, and local policies. While working in that fast-paced environment, on the daily basis, I had to quickly learn all the policies, grasp the key concept, summarize what's important, and then report it in Mandarin. Through that constant exposure to a wide range of issues, I understand policies and understand what it meant to serve in public capacity.
Thank you. This question also goes to Chin Yan Chen. Ms. Chen.
Thank you so much for letting me answer this question. I think many people read my candidate statement. My background is public administration, public policy, and public budgeting. So this is exactly how I've been trained since I was 17 years old in the college and master and PhD. So I've been working in the New York State government for Department of Health budget. By doing so, I'm working with governor to negotiate a budget with state senate and state assembly, and also work with the stakeholder to come up with policy. So the same process will go apply to public school because of public funding. So I'm very comfortable that I should have the short learning curve to join the board, to join the process to go through the public budgeting, to effective and governor the public school district board. Most importantly, I think as a school board that you really need to follow exactly what the guideline the state allow you to, and that you have to understand the public funding coming from. So there's a lot of resource. I actually studied the entire budget 5 years this afternoon to really knowing that how we can move forward together. So my goal is that to work together with what the budget we have, so we can effectively move forward. Most importantly, really follow understanding about budget, understand how effective, how do we do the policy and do the negotiating contract, so make sure school can be very effective run.
Thank you. Next, Lisa Wang, the same question.
Well, I spent 15 years in Big Four accounting firms with nonprofit and profit companies. Numbers is been all my life. I spent many years with the PTA budget, allocation committee, the nonprofit organization. So this is just right up my alley. Policies and procedures are something that I do on a regular basis. My background in accounting and in tax will come really handy, especially working with public and all kinds of people.
Thank you. Mrs. Namjack.
It's working? Is this working?
Yeah.
Sorry. In light of the recent resignations of 2 board members, I believe it is vitally important to appoint someone with prior experience and knowledge of the district. I can add immediate value to solve, not add to, the myriad of issues the school district needs to address. It usually takes at least a year for a board member to fully understand the complicated intricacies and nuances of board roles and processes, as well as district planning and budgeting. In my case, having been a 9-year board member, there would be no need for such a learning curve. I could hit the ground running. I think it is one thing for people to think that they know something. I think it is another for someone to actually know how to do it and have done it before. I understand the nuances of public education and the complexities of public school financing. Although the state talks about equity in funding, in reality, that is not the case. We are in the position we are because the state has continuously shortchanged small, affluent districts like ours to the point where our community now pays for almost half of the monies needed to fund teacher salaries. The greatest concern I have is how do we best address and solve the constant balancing act of trying to provide the best education possible, the best education our students deserve, with the limited and unpredictable revenue sources. I believe my prior experience as a board member and attorney would be helpful.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. All right, next, Nathaniel Sy.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I actually have experience at all 4 levels of government. I spent time in the office of the Majority Leader working for Kevin McCarthy and the House of Representatives working on both public school curriculum and education policy, including policy to replace the No Child Left Behind Act during that time frame. As a candidate for the state legislature, I learned all about public school financing, the budgets, the money flow from federal to state and from state to county, working for both Supervisor Mike Antonovich until his retirement and Supervisor Catherine Barger. I was able to learn about the county's funding and how that flows to districts like ours. I participated in several SEIU collective bargaining discussions on that level. I've also learned about all the programs that are available throughout those 3 levels that all funnel to the local level. And for the past year, my healthcare company has been coordinating with local school districts across the nation to help balance their budgets and maintain and utilize properly the COVID funding that they're receiving from the county, state, and federal levels. So I have experience at all 4 levels of government and would love to apply what I've learned at these 4 levels to the school district into my hometown, San Marino. So thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Next, Susan Flanagan.
Good evening. I have experience in many different areas of education. I have dedicated my entire professional life to education. I have taught for 30 years in 2 different public school, Arcadia school system and San Marino school system, 23 years at Carver, go Carver Pioneers. I also have sat on the Board of Trustees at Westridge School for Girls for 10 years. So I have 10 years of experience of sitting on a board and dealing with the different financial budgets that every school, even though it's a private school, similar issues and problems of having enough money to do the things that you want to do. I know education inside and out. I have developed my own curriculum at both Arcadia and San Marino school systems, which have been adopted and used in the classrooms. I have fulfilled different policies from different schools and procedures. I know education.
Thank you. Mr. Chang?
Okay, next question 2 were brought up by me. If you don't know me, I'm the C. Joseph Chen. I've been working for the school district 20 years. My question, please describe how you will make decisions that are in the best of the interest of the San Marino Unified School District and the support decisions made by the Board of Education, even if those decisions are contrary to your personal interests or those of your family, friend, and neighbor. First of all, I would like Ms. Chun-Yan Chen to answer.
Thank you so much for this question. I think most important thing about school board is that your decision have to be backed up, driven by the data and the fact. So once the school board, if make a decision based on all the analysis and recommendation made by all the school staff, we have did discussion together. As a board director, we should work together as a team. So no matter what the decision has, anything a personal country or whatever, as a board, we need to work together to enforce and also communicate with the community. So I wouldn't have any personal interest to put in front of this decision. And most importantly, we have to set and follow the policy and the budget set together with the board. We all work together as a unity. None of the board director can be alone. But of course, board director individually, we are community member, we can attend a meeting, we understand and listen, be a good listener, but we cannot make that commitment in front of any of the community member without work together as a whole, as a board. So I want to be very clear that as a board director, most importantly, we're going to work together as a team. And we will make a decision based on the fact and data. Once again, just like a budget, everything has the number, has the reason, has the law. Once we all examine that thoroughly, we will follow through. And that's how we're going to do and govern our school district.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Name Jack.
Thank you. While there is no ideal model for a school board member, and while each serves with a unique perspective and background, I think there's certain basic characteristics that an effective board member has to have in common. To be an effective school board member, they should work in unity and purpose and in terms of communicating a common vision. In order to do so, Personal interest cannot be part of the equation. In fact, to do so would be contrary to the very reason they were elected to the school board. When individual board members' personal interests and expectations distract from board-adopted achievement and instructional goals, they are not contributing to the district's success, but in fact, working in opposition as personal agendas or unneeded distractions from core district goals. A board member should always ask the question, in any context, administrative or student related,
30 seconds.
is what I am doing the best for the district? A board's motto should always be, everyone, everything must be based on what's best for all the children, not just a few, not just one.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Lisa Wang.
Well, I'm a very practical person. I believe in data because of my financial background. Data, data, data. I think we as a board needs to work together as a whole. It's a partnership. We're a team. We don't come to the conclusion based on an individual interest. We should come to the conclusion based on what works for our students, the community. And I hope that I will come to resolve issues as a team, even before it comes for a vote. We don't go to a vote and then say we disagree. I hope that we as a team will come to same conclusion so that when we do vote, it will be unanimous.
Thank you. Next, go to Mr. Nathaniel Tsai.
Growing up in this community, I see how close the community and the families are here. So I know the pressure can be absolutely immense when discussing with neighbors and family, and having to know every person that you walk down the street and see. So I think being in government for a while and being able to make these decisions independent of personal feelings, independent of giving each argument its merit, regardless of where the argument came from or who it came from, I think is very important. And even though there may be disagreements within the board or within the community, I think if the board decides to do something, it's vital that we push forward on whatever board initiative has been passed. And I think that as a group, collectively, I think the board will be able to move that forward. And as individuals, we'll put those things aside to make that happen. So,
thank you. Next, go to Ms. Susan Nagel.
I think it's very important that all decisions are made as much as possible with the greatest amount of data and research that we can find in regard to whatever decision we're trying to make. The fact that everything that we're doing revolves around education, I feel like I have a unique position in that I have been on the inside of education as well as on the outside. I've raised 2 grown children and I've sat on the board before. And so I think I have a unique perspective so that when we have a discussion, I can at least add something different to the discussion from firsthand knowledge than maybe someone else. Not to say that that's more important, but to say that it's just a different perspective. And I think it's important that everyone on the board has the ability to say what they think is important without any retribution whatsoever. And hopefully we can all come together and be supportive of one decision.
Thank you. Next, go to Mrs. Louis Kaixi.
I don't have to agree with you 100% to call you my friend. And I don't have to agree with you 100% to work with you or work for you. We all live in this small town together, wanting the best for our children. I have the communication skills, the learning aptitude, and the heart to accept differences. I'm very good at trusting the professionals, knowing that we have a great team of councils, advisory boards, and staff members. Through collaborations, we can build trust and have a collective voice together to achieve the greater good. To give you an example, over the years, I've been asked multiple times to join the foundation as a trustee. But I always say I can do more for the foundation as an independent, trusted community voice without the titles, because I'm always looking at the greater goods instead of my personal titles and achievements. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes for question 2, and let me refer to next one to board member Chong.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chang. My question will begin with Nam Jack, and it reads number 3. This past year resulted in the loss of academic, extracurricular, and social emotional opportunities and engagement for our students. Please give 1 to 3 practical ideas and examples of how the board can support the district to address those losses over the next 1 to 2 school years to promote increased student learning and achievement.
I think this past year has been difficult for many, none more so than our parents, our students, and our teachers. COVID did not just disrupt learning, it opened up vast craters of academic, social, and emotional needs that must be addressed. It is clear that teachers and instruction will be more valuable and more critical than ever. Months of instruction and limited social interaction has caused varying degrees of learning loss. Therefore, I think assessment is crucial, and I think professional development for teachers in helping them conduct the assessment, provide help in instruction, as well as lesson plans and opportunities for students to think deeply, to connect with their peers, and learn to love again together. We need to identify the students who need extra help. Studies identify tutoring as an effective way to help students who are falling behind. The challenge of the district is, how do we pay for it? Hopefully, the COVID learning mitigation funds and the expanded learning opportunity grant from the state will help us in this critical journey to deal with the issues caused by the pandemic influenced disruption of our education.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. The second person to answer this question would be Chun Yan Chen.
As a parent with a teenager, I went through with them for this 15 months. I know exactly what they suffer as academically, mentally, and physically. I think if you ask me about 3 practical ideas, I think we need to address all 3 areas. Academically, I think we need to offer students same opportunity, but not same treatment. Everybody learn differently because you don't know what they went through this past 15 months. So I rather, besides the assessment, we need to understand they learn differently. Secondly, the other idea regarding the mental health, I really think that we have an amazing wellness center. We finally kick off, unfortunately, then went to pandemic right away. How do we really utilize that space for students to feel welcome to go and really utilize what we already have there and bring up the resource so they can really utilize when they are at the school. They don't have to wait until they go home. Physically, I really think most importantly that kids need to move around, no matter you're kindergarten or high school. They're all desperate to want to do something, but they've been sitting at home too long. I even tried to drag my daughter just go out because if she can drink boba, I'll be just happy to drag her out of bed. So I think as a parent, we need to address all 3, and that we don't have to spend too much money, but that we do need to listen to the student. And I know teachers need a support from us too. As a parent, I know San Marino, the best thing is the wonderful parent. We all can work together, parent, student, and teacher. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chen. The next person to answer this question, Lisa Wang.
This has been a very challenging year for my 3 kids that had online studies this year. My daughter especially. I think this past year she has lost a lot. So what do? I would encourage those who need help to ask their teachers to seek the additional help. HMS have after school help with math and English. Encourage them to go. Have them go. We should get our normalcy back to our children in sports by coming back on campus, interact with their teachers, interact with their peers. We can do it as a community. It is not just parents, it's not just the students, but with the teachers, as a community, with parents and students, we can get it back to them, the normalcy that they missed this past year.
Thank you, Mrs. Wang.
The next person to answer this question, Mr. Sai.
I think, a lot of people are going to be focused on the academics post-COVID, but I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is a lack of motivation from students after being stuck at home for so long and getting tired of all the quarantine things. But I think one of the ideas that I would love to bring to the table is the idea of an engaging speaker series where, we have such a diverse community membership with people in all walks of life. And we had this in college, and I think some of the things we need to do is help a lot of the students, no matter what age they are, discover their passions and try to get them remotivated to engage in everything that we're doing, whether it's extracurriculars, athletics, things like that, whether the people that come to speak are poets or musicians or people in government. And I think one of the biggest things to move these students to proactively participate, whether they're on Zoom or they're in person, I think their academics would benefit, their athletics would benefit, their dedication would benefit if they were, I guess, inspired to go and do these things to achieve their dreams and goals, if they're seeing it firsthand from their parents, their community members, and et cetera. So I think that's something where, on a practical idea scale, that's something we could put in forth for the district.
Thank you, Mr. Sai. Next, Louis Kasi.
COVID had changed the way we teach and learn, the way we function as an individual, as a family, a school, or a school district, and even the way we communicate. Fortunately, I'm tech savvy enough to embrace changes, and I want to look into options of not just embracing changes, but maximizing opportunities that come with the change. Now that the students are comfortable with online learning, are there different ways that we can enhance the curriculum without increasing financial burden? Perhaps there are more resources online that's not limited to the district. There's international resources or different counseling services that are available that are different. Now that colleges are changing their testing requirements, are there different pathways we can look into? I currently do not have any specific agenda to push because one needs to be actually at the position to see the full picture and understand the obstacles before pledging to do anything. But I want to be a part of SMUSD's future solution instead of a simple Band-Aid. And I want to and am capable of bringing people together and aligning resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kasi. And last but not least, Ms. Flanagan.
This is one area where I am extremely passionate and have talked to several of you actually about this topic. The students actually in the elementary grades, especially kindergarten, first and second, I believe have suffered the greatest loss of their education. And I'm worried they never will ever be able to get it back. In first and second grade, they learn the basics of reading, the basics of math, and they have been in school online for the majority of a year and a half. Plus, every year when the children come back in the fall, as a teacher, you have to review approximately about a quarter of what they've lost from the summer. And so really it's 2 years of loss. These children, especially the younger ones, need a lot of help. And I think it's important. Number one, you asked for 3 things. Like if I was a second grade teacher, I need to meet with the first grade teachers. Teachers know what they know and what they don't know. They will assess them. They will work together. They will know which students know what and what you need to do with the other. The second and the third grade teachers need to meet together and form a plan. And they will be able to pick up what they've lost. And I think we should also offer after school programs.
Thank you. All right, you guys, we are halfway through the program, and I'm telling you, there's a net up there, and none of you guys are going beyond the allotted time minute. So I challenge you, okay, because when Dr. Choi raises his card, just go for it and see what happens, because I'm waiting for that. All right. So with that, I have question 4, which reads, and this is very short, how will you know if the board goals are being accomplished and board policies are being carried out? We're going to begin first with Susan Flanagan.
Well, I think all board decisions and policies.
Is the mic on? It might have fallen off.
Okay, sorry. I believe all board policies and decisions are different. So I think we would have to have different ways of making sure which policies and how they are being fulfilled. We might have to have a certain point person that is in charge of following up on certain policies and whatever. I think it's important. My main thing is I think it's important that we have open communication with all of our constituents, the teachers, the principals, the superintendent, the community, to see if we are fulfilling our policies. And I think we need to really improve that area. When I was a teacher, I felt like there was very poor communication, except for with one particular superintendent that we had. And I've heard complaints from other teachers that they feel like there isn't any communication. So I think that is one way. I think also, of course, from research and data, sometime we would need to take assessments that might give us the ideas of whether our policies are working. For instance, the state testing, that gives us an idea of where we stand. And I feel like we haven't done as well lately. That's also something that I think we should address.
Thank you. Next, Louis Cassie.
School board member, I believe, should be the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, hands, and feet to all the community members and the administrators. We are one inseparable body dependent on each other to fully function healthily together. When in charge of the census, the board is helping with outreach, public relations, and communications, so engagement, guidance, and support can be maximized. When acting as the hands and feet, the board is helping with mobility, doing as much as legally possible to help move the body in the right direction. As a whole unit, the body can then function and grow together, adapting to the changing circumstances and evolving into the better version of itself. When we're connected enough, then we would see all kind of communications that's beyond test scores and beyond data, and we know whether or not the board policies are being carried out effectively.
Thank you. Next, Mrs. Namjack.
I think effective boards commit to a vision of very high expectations for student achievement and quality instruction and define the goals towards that vision. The question was, how do those goals, how do we know that they're being met? First, I think we need to make sure that the goals are clear and concise. Are they too broad? Are they too specific? Are they short-term? Are they long-term? Do the goals have specific achievement targets and benchmarks? Second, although clear and shared goals are necessary, the goals mean little if the district doesn't take steps to achieve them, to assess what resources in terms of funding, time, and personnel are needed. Third, we must gather data to measure progress and, when necessary, adjust course. Reliable data must be collected to inform ongoing decisions as to how to best allocate resources and assess effectiveness. Finally, I think it is essential that the stated goals remain the top priorities of the district and that those initiatives, that other initiatives do not detract attention or resources from the goals that we want accomplished.
Thank you, Mrs. Jack. You were so close to going over the time. All right, I'm watching you. All right, Lisa Wang, please, go for it.
I've sat in school site council for HMS as well as for high school. There are annual surveys that goes to students, teachers, and the teachers. One of the things that I've learned is that parents and students are not returning their surveys. So we need to understand from our teachers, from our students and parents, what we are doing, the goals that we set are being met. And we need to work with our principals at each of the school sites to make sure the board visions is carried out. Parents just want to be heard, right? The parents just want to know that their concerns are being listened, addressed by the board. And we want to make sure that this is a partnership between the board and the community.
Thank you, Mrs. Wang. Next, Nathaniel Desai.
I think there are two kind of separate categories for the board goals. One is obviously the ones that are able to be represented by the statistics, the facts, the academic assessments, our rankings as a district, our students as rankings. So there are those goals that we can obviously see, especially as we continue to get those data back. But those are ones that only time can really tell for us. The other side of the category that I believe that is really important is going to be the non-academic assessments. Yeah, where through surveys or through community feedback, do our students feel that their learning tools are adequate? Do the families feel that their kids are prepared for college? So I think that these are kinds of questions and engagement that we need to have in order to be able to assess whether the board goals are being carried out from the non-statistical side. And I think that it's going to be important to create new avenues for this engagement beyond typical surveys and things like that. I think with this age of technology that we have, we should be able to better communicate and receive feedback, and assess the success of these goals through questions and things like that. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Desai. Next, we have Chin Yen Chen.
I think important when we want the school board to move forward, in addition to assess the overall, we actually should do the self-assessment as a board director. We need to make sure that, do we set a reasonable goal? Are we following through ourselves? And the one most important job the school board has to do is hire the superintendent. So it's most importantly, how do we work together with the superintendent to set out the goal and policy? And is the superintendent carries through the goal and policy the way of the board has instructed this person to do? Another thing is that the school board is not micromanagement or the staff teacher. So how do we make sure we can still hear the teacher student? Because student is the most important focus of the school district. So we really need to be a listener, even though they may not be able to in the closed session discussion. But if you can go listen, you find people are not happy, that means our goal is not achieving, no matter how look wonderful on the paper. So even the test score look good doesn't mean the community is happy. So most importantly is that still be a good listener, but in the meantime, work closely with the superintendent to understand what the policy hasn't been delivered clearly. And is the teacher not know, student not know, parent not know what was missing. We need to self-assess as a board ourselves. What we have done differently would be better. So I think most importantly, assess ourselves, but also make sure the policy and goals are clear between the superintendent, so superintendent can really carry throughout the district.
Thank you, Chen Yen Chen. Next is Mr. Chang.
Okay, now we go to the question 5. The question, how will you advocate not only for all students, but also for the San Bernardino Unified School District and public education as a whole? And how will you provide support to and establish a positive public education climate for all constituents? First of all, let's go to the Mrs. Namjack.
We are the only locally elected officials chosen solely to represent the interests of the students. So the board members have a responsibility to speak out on behalf of all the children in the district. We are advocates for students. We are advocates for our programs. We are advocates for public education. To be an effective board member, one should support that public advocacy at every opportunity and at every level. We must build support within our community as well as at the state and national levels. We must be knowledgeable leaders, extraordinary governance practitioners, and ardent advocates for our students' public education. I personally believe that how board members perform their roles is as important as the role itself. Board members' relationships with each other, with the superintendent and the staff, as well as the public, have a profound impact on board effectiveness. These boardmanship skills affect the board's ability to come to consensus about the direction of the school system, advocate with credibility, and establish a positive climate that encourages the best from the staff to support and benefit all our constituents at every level. Improving student achievement should be our paramount goal. We should always remember to affirm that the futures of our children are driven by their aspirations and not bound by their circumstances.
Thank you. Next, go to Mrs. Louis Kaisi.
Well, to give you a positive public education climate example, I'm more recently known in the community for the pop-up events I put together to save the teachers. Those events are evidence of how I'm able to work with the city for event permissions and logistics, how I'm able to connect with the community with just the right message to earn their trust so they would come out and support, and how I'm able to collaborate with parents from all 4 schools. I listen, I get it, and I do it. Aside from that, I also spent 5 years consistently attending to the Chinese WeChat groups at Valentine and HMS as liaison, answering questions, translating documents, and conveying important school-related messages. In that role, I'm the bridge in the community, not only because I'm fluent in both Chinese and English, but also because I'm able to build trust and bring people together. And never neglect those questions and inquiries just because new immigrants don't have votes. So that's how I would like to give you an example of what I can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, go to Mr. Nadedia Chai.
I think I'm in a unique position where I'm in the middle demographic where most of my peers are either recently graduating, they're starting their careers. Some of my teachers are still here. Some of them are just recently retired. I'm also not yet a parent, maybe someday, but I think, I think I'm in that position where I can represent both the past, all 3, sorry, not both, the past, present, and the future of San Marino students and on all constituents. I'm in that middle demographic where most of my professional relationships in government and business are people that are older than me, and I can still relate to being part of I believe I'm part of the last generation where, we still had flip phones in middle school, and also I still had to go to the library to look up the whole wall of encyclopedias. I think, we're also the first generation, my generation is the first generation to where our professors and teachers tell us that Wikipedia is not a valid source. And I think that, again, I'm in that position where, I can be that middle ground for both, the parents and the students and the rest of the community members here in San Marino.
Thank you. Next, go to Mrs. Lisa Wen.
I would advocate for a transparent relationship between the board and the community. The San Marino School District does not make only local news, but it makes national news and international news. I think I would want to allocate, not focus on the differences that we have in the community, but to come together as a community. We all have one common goal, and the common goal should be providing an excellent school district for all. And it's not okay just being number 1, because once you're number 1, there's only one way to go. If we don't enhance and review and improve our curriculum, our policy procedures, finding the next superintendent, and have the administration follow the board policies.
Thank you. Next, go to Mrs. Susan Van Nagel.
How to advocate for all the students and for San Marino School District and public education as a whole. I've done that my entire life. I think it's important as a school board member, as I have said already, that communication is of the utmost importance. Being transparent, being available for any of the constituencies to come knock on your door, students included. And I think that the way that you get that feeling of camaraderie between all the constituents is you make yourself available at every turn. You visit the schools, you visit the classrooms, you visit the teachers at recess, you go to where they're having their little coffee or whatever. You visit the community, you go to the events, Memorial Day, you go to the school events, you meet the students and the parents. And then they feel comfortable about coming to you if they have an issue or a problem. And I think that is very important.
Thank you. Lastly, go to Mrs. Chin Yuan Chen.
I think this question actually not just only address the parent who has a children in the San Marino Unified School District, actually address to the all voter. That's how we got to today, Measure E, because not everybody understand. And only the people who has kids at school, they will try to pass the measure. And the people who don't have the kids at school, they may not feel it's relevant. And that's the issue I would like to stress, because since 2013, the local control funding formula really changed how California public school is funded. That's why we need that extra money. And a lot of the residents who I have run into, they were like, oh, in the old time, we don't have to do that. You guys are crazy. Now you have to raise so much money, I have to pay so much tax. It's because they don't know the LCFF has been established in 2013, how that negatively affect our school. So I really think to really make that available information will help. Once they understand, they know the San Marino Unified School District is the value of the community, including the public value. They will support to share that a little bit during that partial test. I think most important, that's what I did through the bilingual webinar to help people to understand what the law has changed affecting us physically, financially. How does we have to work together? It's not like 30 years ago, totally changed now. So people really need to have the opportunity to examine our budget, understand it's nothing wrong about Unified School District. It's just because the public funding has changed. And as a public Unified School District, we have no choice. So we need to find a solution. And partial tests happen to be the easier solution for equally share. I got stopped, but something didn't drop. So I tried to test out for you because you want us to do, so I did it.
Thank you, Mrs. Chen. My last question is going to go first back to Ms. Chin Yuan Chen. And it reads, what kind of relationship should a district or the board have with its community, with its parents and families?
I think most importantly, transparency and accountability. I do think our school board is working very hard. Unfortunately, a lot of information is so hard to find on our school website. Even when I was trying to do the bilingual website for Chinese-speaking parents, because in my background, public policy, I can easily find, I can read all the financial statement. I even went on to the ED data, ED source. I can do all the analysis myself. I actually did all 5-year comparison myself. I even know the unrestricted, restricted funding, capital funding, special revenue, all of that, general fund. I even know the percentage per student. But it's not in everybody's blood to do public budgeting. So I do think that if we able to see to believe, knowledge is the power, really willing to educate and provide a webinar to teach people how to read budget. And we don't use San Marino as an example. We actually should read La Cañada Unified School District budget. Once you read there, then you will see that we're pretty similar. We are in the same situation. They need a partial test, we need a partial test. They need a bond, we need a bond. Do we want to be top #1 school district? We want to, so we have to work together. I do believe that we need to tell people where the information is. Don't just put on there, allow them to search on their own. They don't know how to search on their own. I'm happy to be the liaison. I'm happy to be the open listener. And I'm also happy to explain. And I do think that education is a power, not just to our students, but to our parents and our community member. They deserve to understand why we need to raise the tax for certain.
Thank you. Mrs. Flanagan?
Well, I think this is probably everyone on this panel would agree that we do need to be transparent and open as far as our communication goes. And I know I've been harping on this, but it's something that I feel that as a school district, we've been lacking as far as communication between all the constituents, between the superintendent and the teachers, between the school board and the teachers, between the school board and the community at large. And there are different ways about going about that and improving the communication. But I've heard complaints basically from all the constituents when they found out that I was going to apply. And they said their #1 request was better communication. The teachers said that they didn't even know that school was going to start on a particular day before the parents did. And they were kind of taken aback by that. And I also want to say that even though I am a teacher, of course, my heart is with the teachers, but I'm not just going to represent the teachers. I'm going to represent all the constituents, the parents, the students, the faculty, the administration, and the community.
Thank you. Lisa Wang?
I think we should have an open door policy with our constituents. Is that through the town hall? Is that through emails? But communication and listening are very important to our parents. We should have a productive, transparent relationship, especially with the parents and the board or the administration. It's very important that teachers are heard, the parents of the district are being heard. And so we truly should have a good communication with all the constituents. And I would like to think I could have that open policy where they can come to me with their concerns and questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Wang. Sorry, Ms. Namjack?
I think positive community relations is essential, if not crucial, to the sustainability of our district. It is the responsibility of the board and the superintendent to communicate that importance to the district and to provide that information in an effective manner to help overall student achievement. Effective boards communicate and engage parents. Effective boards engage the community in setting district vision and goals. They establish good relationships with the community, parents, and stakeholders in terms of understanding their roles as policymakers and vision setters, while also respecting and understanding the roles of the administration, the teachers, and staff. The board has a responsibility to involve the community in appropriate, meaningful, and transparent ways, and to communicate clear, appropriate, and detailed information about district policies, educational programs, fiscal condition, and progress on goals. Lastly, I believe that the board represents the community and must be accountable to the community for the performance of the schools. The board establishes the systems and processes to monitor the results, evaluate the school system's progress towards accomplishing that district's vision. But most importantly, all of that needs to be communicated to each and every stakeholder in the community.
Thank you. Louis Kasi?
The relationship should very much like a family. In a family, each member have their own difficulties, their own needs. one is probably more dominant, the other one is more of a passive aggressive, or however you make it. But the family is always moving together within a family budget towards the same direction. So when asked what the relationship should be, I think the community should very much be like a family. I have two children in the district. Winston is an 8th grader at HMS, and Morgan is a rising 6th grader. My husband, Sean Chow, and 2 sisters-in-law all graduated from San Marino High School. So I know the district from the perspectives of 3 generations of San Marinians. I understand the importance of carrying on the legacy and the excellency. And I think being here together, we should work as a family moving forward under the limited circumstances, but we're going to maximize the benefits, do the best as a unit together.
Thank you. And Nathaniel?
I think to be efficient as a board and to have a great relationship with the community, we need to be really diverse. And over the past several years, we've had a tremendous history of community leaders, school administrators, and parents serve on the board. But I think we really need to have a student community advocate. I graduate, I don't know if graduate's the right word, but I'm Carver School class of 06, HMS class of 09, and SMHS class of 13. And while I was at school, I had to balance academics. I had to balance waking up 5 in the morning to go swim, earning my Eagle badge, SAT tutoring, Chinese Club San Marino, all at the same time. And now these kids have the distractions of social media, video gaming, and everything else. And I think that being able to relate to these students is something that, we need to really have on this board. Whether it's me or someone else, someone in my generation that comes down the line. But I think that's going to be very important for us as a board to have that diversity and to be able to communicate effectively with the students. And I know I don't tell my parents everything, and I still get mad at them when they ask me for the 200th time how to delete something on their phone. But I believe those are the kind of communications that we may be missing from the students to this board. So thank you.
Well, this concludes our question session of this meeting. And I'd like to give everybody just a round of applause for what you've done today. Oh my gosh. And you guys just make it so difficult, okay? Because you guys all did fabulous. However, I do want to state that there is only one person that we can choose here. But I want to encourage you, because there is an application open for the second seat, that if you are not chosen, please don't be discouraged, because you can request to have your application continued for the next seat and to continue with this fun game of round and round with the questions. Yes, but more than that, I just want to thank you on behalf of the board for your bravery in joining us in this journey, because, I think that you guys all have wonderful ideas and you guys bring different skill set to this board. And I just want to recognize that and make sure you guys know that there is a second seat and that you guys can, do it again. I'd like to just kind of, does the board need a minute or two to kind of weigh their thoughts, or are you kind of ready to make some decisions?
We also have public comment.
Oh, we have comments to open? Okay, we're going to have a few minutes because we have public comment. And now I'd like to call on Dr. Stephen Choi.
Yes. Yes, go ahead and turn around chairs and I'll go ahead and
Now we're going around.
initiate the public comments section. We will now pause the meeting for 1 minute to take requests to speak. regarding this agenda item. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. We have 30 seconds remaining. If you would like to make a request to speak, please press the raise hand icon, dial *9, or submit a public comment card. Okay, President Ryan, we have no requests to speak via Zoom or the phone. Do we have any requests through in-person cards? No cards.
Thank you, Dr. Choi. Thank you, Ms. Delatorre. All right, so at this time, we are going to 6B, which is appoint successful candidate. And I'd like to open it up to my fellow board members. Mrs. Chong, would you like to offer up a motion?
Can I just clarify, are we having a discussion on this, or are we just putting forth our selections?
I'm putting forth our selections because primarily some of these candidates may want to continue in the next round, and so we don't publicly critique perhaps potential fellow board members.
Okay, and so to clarify, then this is really just a vote as an individual between the three of us, and then we'll move forward based on
Yes,
that. Okay,
provisional
thank you.
appointment.
I think I do need a minute. Somebody, Mr. Chang, would you like to go first?
Well, this moment, what I can say, I admire all the 6 candidates. Yeah, after the COVID-19 pandemic for entire 18 months, is very hard for our school district running the operation, but by end up, I think we are successful because, even the 2 school board already resigned, but I remember last year, all the board members, including the 2 last year, they graduate from their turn, and 5 school board members always work together. So I think that's very important. As our school board role, we make a policy, we approve the budget, but then we depends on the superintendent daily management. So we are the board member, we are not do the micromanagement. So I think we are successful last year. We are not just a survivor. I think we are successful. So end up, I think, after I heard this 6 comment, it's kind of difficult for me to make a decision which one is best. I think each one have their different skill set. And so I really need to think again and again, maybe within a very short time and decide, because I think at this moment, the school already over this semester, so we are preparing for the next calendar year, 2021 to 2022. So we need have a lot of energy, and also a lot of wisdom and a lot of cooperation. So I think my direction will be go to the way who can quickly to work with the current board, and then within a short time, the set up the short goal, and then reach to the five goal, the long-term goal. Because I remember in the beginning this year, the two new school board members, they joined us. So we start to looking for long-term goal. But right now we have to do one more time. Yeah. So that's my thinking. So I would like to hear from the other two school board members. Thank you. That's my comment.
Are you prepared to speak, Mrs. Chong?
Sure. So I've given this a lot of thought and consideration, and in light of the recent Masters in Governance training, obviously a huge part of the role of the board member is going to be twofold from what I learned, is going to be really being able to set those policies and directions and really engage in a lot of the strategic planning we have in front of us. The second part of that is working effectively together as a team. This school district has undergone a tremendous amount of pain and trauma, not just this last year, but for years prior to that. I think in looking at that, it's weighed heavily on me in looking at what is going to help us heal as a community and move forward in a way that's going to be positive for all of our students, in a way that's going to be positive for our staff. And I recognize that each of the candidates in front of us brings with them value for all of those components. They ultimately all have a love for our district and our community and our schools, and they want what is best for our community. This is a very unique situation, having two board members to fill, and it is only for a very short time. But it is a critical and crucial time in our period as a school district. And as the newest board member with only 6 months of experience, I'm keenly aware of my perspective that is both fresh and limited. With that in mind, I really looked to where we as a board sit in terms of the expertise we each offer. And with that in mind, I would like to nominate Nam Jack to fill the position of the fourth seat, which was known as the Corey Barbary seat, for the remainder of Mr. Barbary's term.
I would like to second that, Mrs. Chong. I would like to call roll call vote. Mr. Chang,
Aye.
Mrs. Chong,
Aye.
Mrs. Ryan, aye, and the motion passes.
I also want to echo President Ryan to the rest of you. I am truly grateful for you stepping up, and I really do want all of you to please do apply again. We promise not to torture you if we can help it. But we really do appreciate and value all of the perspectives that everyone's brought to this table.
Oh, by the way,
Go ahead.
I know the last 6 months is very hard for our school board. So I'm glad, the Sherry Ryan as a board president take a lead for from the 5 school board to the 3 school board. But I think it's very hard because you have a full-time job and you need to take a hit and lead us. And every day you need to, on behalf of the Board of Education, you need to communicate with the superintendent So I think that's a big job. So personally, I think Jen also probably agree with me. This is not an easy job. Yeah, so I like to salute your leadership. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. This is item 6C, the swearing in of the appointee, Dr. Linda Delatorre.
Thank you, President Ryan, members of the Board of Education. I'd like to take this time to swear in Mrs. Nam Jack. Mrs. Jack, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Nam Jack, do solemnly swear that
I, Nam Jack, do solemnly swear that
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations, you are officially sworn in. Congratulations. Okay. End the meeting. Oh, yes.
Or do you want me to adjourn the meeting?
You can adjourn the meeting.
All right. All right. And with that, we adjourn the meeting.
Can I have you guys, I'm sorry.
Honor 'em.